You heard it right. That's the NBA Slate Starter Podcast theme music. Excited to be talking about a 13-game behemoth NBA DFS slate. I am Rinpak alongside Eric, coming off an exciting opening night in the NBA where we saw KD and Kyrie and Karis LeVert annihilate the Warriors, and LeBron and the Lakers had their ring ceremony as they take on the Clippers in a crosstown rivalry matchup. Eric, how's your day going? How was the two-game slate? I'm excited to be on with you once again for this massive Wednesday night in the NBA.
It was fun. Nothing too special. Got a couple things. I felt good about my take on Wiseman. Felt good about some other things. Anthony Davis, not so much. And then some of that blowout. I mean, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. Made it a little difficult to find a ceiling there, but it comes down to raw points in those two gamers. So I'm okay with it. We go on to the next, and so why not just jump right to a 13-game slate? It's natural progression.
Let's definitely get right to it. In a two-game slate where I saw some of my flaws come in with Eric Pascal, who let me down, and many others, and NBA chalk busting was back at it again. So let's get started right away with the point guard position on FanDuel. No other than Luka Magic and Russell Westbrook leading the way there. Luka priced up at 11.4. Russ at 9.9 on FanDuel. Russ checks in at 9.3 on DraftKings, and Luka is priced at 10K on DraftKings over there. Both look like some very exciting pay-up options. Luka's taking on the Phoenix Suns in an implied total where the Mavericks are implied to have a 118 current right now. What's your take on Luka and Russ right now as we take an aerial approach as a first look on the point guard position?
Well, I saw 238 total, I think, in the late night hammer. You've got the Dallas Phoenix game, which is kind of finishing everything up. So you can't get too comfortable the entire day until that game happens. And so Luka Doncic up top at 11.4, he's going to garner a lot of ownership, and rightfully so. It's hard to call anybody a lock or hard to call anybody over-owned on a 13-game slate. I'd be surprised if he got way up there because there are so many games and so many options. But 11.4 is about where he should be, and if you're paying up at point guard, he's got to be at the top of your list. Trae Young, we saw have a pretty decent preseason. He's somebody that I'm very interested to see how with Bogdanović out on the floor, see how that usage ends up coming out. We haven't really seen what that's going to be for extended minutes yet. So he's going to be somebody that I'm very interested in tracking. And then Russell Westbrook at the top of the range, 9,900. We don't really know where him and Beal are going to be or how they're going to be splitting the usage. It's going to be very different. You got to think that he's maybe more of an alpha than what James Harden and him were. You know, he was playing a little bit more secondary to James Harden. So he's somebody that I have a lot of interest in on this slate too. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to love Luka without Porzingis. And as we remember, so many times where we just go straight to Luka when Porzingis was out. And the Mavs are going to be without Porzingis. Luka was sensational in that bubble. And I think he's going to start off on a great note. Luka did check into training camp a little overweight. There were some memes floating around of him picking up an extra pounds. But I think Luka will be just fine at that price tag. There's someone who OKC has given the keys to the office, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander priced at 7,500, who is point guard eligible on DraftKings. I want to be someone who's going to be early on SGA. I think he's going to get quite a bit of usage there now. It's his team, as Sam Presti has picked up draft picks for years, for decades, it feels like. And they're just going to hand him the keys to the office. It's going to be his show. And SGA is someone who I want to be on top of early. He's priced at 7,500. It is expensive for SGA, but I think that upside is definitely there as he takes on Houston.
I could not agree
some
more.
Other exciting, some other exciting players. We got Ja Morant at 8,400, Dame Lillard at 9K, Ben Simmons at 8,700 on DraftKings. These are some exciting players. I mean, they all have such a great upside. That's what makes a 13-game slate so great. You can go anywhere, and there's so many pricing mistakes on these studs where you can't be at fault at rostering one of them. I like all those players right now, and some exciting value all the way down. You could even take some shots with George Hill, price all the way down at 3,600. Darius Garland, 4,100, and Markelle Fultz. Good for him, man. He got that extension. He's priced at 5K. And hotshot rookie in Detroit out of France, Killian Hayes at 3,900. That's rounding out the value for me right now as I look through the slate right now. Well, who else stands out to you in the point guard position, and what are some thoughts about the players they've just mentioned?
Well, I'm intrigued also. DeLon Wright is somebody that I'm interested to see how this Pistons backcourt kind of plays out. They're going to be terrible defensively, so that's great for fantasy purposes. I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see how Killian Hayes fits in with that offense. He's a guy that was the unanimous number one pick in his class 2 years ago. It goes over to Australia, and now we don't really know necessarily what that ceiling is, but it seems like it's there. I just kind of want to bet on the raw talent early and often with a lot of these rookies. You can also look a little bit at that mid-range. DeJounte Murray is in a good spot at 5,600 facing an up-and-down John Morant. You just you never know what you're going to get from him on the defensive side of the ball. I love the Markelle Fultz call. He's a guy that once you see these guys get secure paychecks, you kind of see the secure minutes follow. So I want to be on top of that too.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. A name that I missed early on, Kobe White, who's priced at 6,200 for Chicago, taking on the Hawks there. He looked great in the preseason. He had one great preseason game. He's still young. He's a second-year player. He's going to go through some mistakes, but what we've seen with Billy Donovan, he really, I think, elevated SGA's game there at OKC last year, and I'm excited what he's going to do with Kobe White in Chicago. That's another intriguing option. He's coming in at a fine value over there on FanDuel.
We're going to see so many intriguing options. I mean, Ben Simmons, too, at 9,200. I completely forgot about him. Facing Russell Westbrook, facing Washington. That game's got a pretty high total. You can find guys. That's part of the beauty of a 13-game slate is that you can find low-owned options in every single one of these ranges that we're talking about. Make sure that you're checking those ownership projections early and often tomorrow. And the later you wait to make those swaps, obviously the Phoenix game will be popular, but some of those games that start at 5, 6 o'clock, you're going to have a lot of leverage if you kind of wait and let some of the people for the 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock games, especially early in the season, play guys at a higher ownership and wait to kind of make your pivots.
For those of you who don't know, Eric does live in the West Coast. So for me, those are 7, 8, 9 o'clock p.m. games. So
yeah, there's that.
Pardon him for the time zone difference. I truly do believe the Central Time Zone is the best time zone for DFS.
You're out of your mind.
The Eastern Time Zone is
You're out of your mind.
The Eastern Time Zone. The Eastern Time Zone is not so friendly. I'm currently located in the Eastern Time Zone, so I'm not too much of a fan. Onto the shooting guard position we go, and a quick look at no other than Mr. Strip Club himself, Mr. Party Man James Harden, who just threw a basketball at Jayshawn Tate. Clearly just wants to be out of Houston. And Houston, we do really have a problem there. Priced at 10-4. I just don't know what it's going to look like with Harden. He's just like being an absolute problem in that Houston locker room. Devin Booker's 8,900. Zach LaVine comes in at 7,900. D'Angelo Russell, 7,200. Playing for the Timberwolves. Brad Beal is at 8,500. Those are the upper tier on DraftKings. Eric, who stands out to you in that upper tier on DraftKings, and what other options are you currently looking at?
Well, we were blessed with some early runs of ownership projection for the 2-game slate because we had the salaries out plenty early. This 13-game slate, we're kind of flying a little blind here. I got to think Devin Booker up top on FanDuel, 8,400 is going to be super, super popular. James Harden, there's really 2 ways that you can look at this, and I'm going to think more about it. I'm curious what his ownership is going to come in at because Houston could decide to just run him into the ground early and often if they decide that they just don't want anything to do with him or they're trying to like get some big ceiling games out of him and extract everything that they can. Bolster his trade value. So many things that they can do by just running him out there for an eternal amount of minutes. But it could also work in the flip side where they're mad at him. They don't want to give him what he wants, play him, cap him at a 32, 34 minutes count. I mean, we know that he's not in great shape right now or, however, whatever those pictures were that were bouncing around Twitter, they were beautiful. But those 2 guys up top, the 2 top guys on FanDuel, I also try to keep in mind that when they're listed at the top of the page, people who are hand building tend to jam them in a little bit more. So on a 13-game slate, they're going to be very, very popular options, I think, on FanDuel.
Yeah, I agree with you. Some value that we could probably consider is potentially looking at a player like Alec Burks at 4,800. I know 4,800 seems kind of high for in New York, but I think Tibbs did come out with a statement that he feels pretty confident in giving him some minutes to start off with. And once you get confidence from Tibbs, you're going to play a lot of minutes. And Alec Burks has never been shy to shoot the ball. I know he's in a tough matchup against Indiana, and the implied total is not very nice, but that could be kind of a low on value option. Lou Dort is going to probably come up in some optimizers. I'm not that interested in Lou Dort. He had one really good game in game 7 of the first round in the bubble. Lou Dort is someone who I'll definitely be avoiding. If he's going to come in with some any ownership, I'll be definitely trying to pivot off of that. Other options that we can definitely consider is Van Vliet on FanDuel, 7,100. Outside of that, maybe Bledsoe at 5,600. A new role, a new offense out in New Orleans for him. And Buddy Hield is priced all the way down at $5,200, and I'm going to be all over that just because I think his minutes are going to be a lot safer this year, and there's going to be a different upside that we see out of Buddy Hield. And I'm going to be very excited to roster Buddy Hield, especially over on FanDuel. Any final thoughts on the shooting guard position before we move on to the small forward position?
Yeah, it's weird to talk about guys being sneaky on a 13-game slate because I think a lot of teams and a lot of spots are going to be sneaky. I'm curious what San Antonio's rotations are going to look like. Memphis was a team that I loved to target a lot last year. They're not your parents' Memphis Grizzlies. They get up and down the floor, they run, and it seemed like people were a little slow on the get up for that. So Lonnie Walker is somebody for San Antonio at 4,200, and Keldon Johnson, who started balling out towards the end of the bubble. A couple of those guys are going to be low owned options who could just be your punts to help you go stars and scrub on this slate.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Before we go into the small forward position, I want to talk about the special promotion we're running till the 29th. You're going to get access to all of the Awesemo NBA premium product, all for just $1. Use the promo code Caruso, sign up, enjoy the product, stop guessing, start winning using this product. We're going to talk about a special tool that the Awesemo NBA product has later on in the podcast, but make sure to take advantage of that tool. And you can find the tool all over our Twitter feed. You can find it on our main page at awesemo.com, or you can go on awesemo.com/join and use the promo code Caruso to take advantage of the special promotion. You'll never see a better promotion than this on all of DFS. Onto the small forward position we go. All the way leading off the small forward position, Jason Tatum priced up at $9,200. Jimmy Butler, coming off a sensational bubble, has small forward eligibility at 7,700. Brandon Ingram, coming off a great year and securing a contract extension at 8,600. DeMar DeRozan is 7,300. I like that price tag for DeMar right now. Tobias Harris checks in at 6,200 on DraftKings. FanDuel small forward is always an ugly scene, but on a 13-game slate, there are some nice options that we can take advantage of. All those players that I mentioned are all small forward eligibility there. Talk to me about the small forward position. What value options, what studs are you most excited about on this 13-game slate?
I'm so excited to play Pelicans every opportunity that I get this year. Brandon Ingram, 7,300 on FanDuel is just a smash for me. It makes a lot of things work on FanDuel. You know, if you're trying to get a little bit different roster construction, go less stars and scrubs and go a little bit more balanced. Over on DraftKings, Ben Simmons is small forward eligible. That always intrigues me when you can get a guy who's going to possibly see a bump in minutes and usage underneath a new coach. You have a couple bit of unknowns on how they're going to utilize him in that offense. If he could even soak up a little bit of the Embiid usage, that would be a beautiful, beautiful thing. He's kind of an enigma as well from a basketball standpoint. So somebody that I want to take some shots on there. Brandon Ingram, again, 8,600. Those two sitting right next to each other on DraftKings. Both of those together are going to be popular parts of my build. Buddy Hield, again, 6,300. Small forward eligibility on DraftKings. I'll probably utilize him more there because shooting guard's going to be a little bit better from just an early look perspective here. And Gordon Hayward, 6,500 on FanDuel. I was going back and forth a little bit with Greg Ehrenberg on Twitter. We both kind of were looking at the same things with Gordon Hayward for some of our best ball drafts that we were looking at. Gordon Hayward saw a crazy amount of usage bump with Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum off the floor in Boston last year. So whoever picked him up was always going to get a pretty good deal. And him facing Cleveland, going back into Cleveland where he had the injury 2 years ago, I believe, at the beginning of that season. It's a spot that might feel a little irky for him going back there, but I'm pretty excited about that price tag with an up and down Charlotte Hornets team.
No, for sure. And I want to talk about some Cleveland value on the small forward position. I think Okoro is someone that I rostered in preseason, and he did fairly well for me. He is the near the min at
3,400 on DraftKings.
Yep,
3,400.
And he's 4,000 on FanDuel. Another guy who's min priced on both sides is Patrick Williams for the Bulls. I believe their fourth overall pick in this year's draft. He did start some preseason games. He's the min. If you're looking for some salary relief at that position, you can consider Dwayne Bacon is also the min there on DraftKings, priced at $3K. Some interesting options. It's pretty much there's going to be so many different ways to have lineup construction. The way I'm looking at it right now, other options on FanDuel, you can look at Derek Jones, who's going to be starting in Portland. He's the min there. I think there's going to be a lot of ways to be unique on a 13-game slate. That's going to be a given, but I think you could go stars and scrubs and a balanced approach from what I'm looking at it right now. That kind of wraps up the small forward position. Make sure to take advantage of all the tools we have, taking advantage of the rankings that Alex puts out, and just monitor the ownership. And more than anything, watch the whole Awesemo content program. Essentially, we're a table setter for tomorrow's strategy show, followed by Alex's game plan, then followed by Deeper Dive, and then the Live Before Lock show. Make sure to be tuning in. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us out tremendously. And we're trying to get that 50,000 mark. So with all your help, we're going to get there a lot sooner than you know it. Onto the power forward position, Eric. This position's always going to have some studs. No other than reigning MVP Giannis, priced at 10-2, followed by last year's number one overall pick in Zion, 7,500. Sabonis, 7,400, who missed the bubble. They really needed him after he got that injury. Siakam, 7,600. I was leading off that upper tier in the power forward position on DraftKings. On the FanDuel, we have the similar options as well. Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, Zion, Sabonis. Which stud stands out to you in the power forwards right now as we take a first look at it?
7,800, Domantas Sabonis on FanDuel is an absolute smash. Like, there is no way that I am not going to be over the field. I can tell you that at 9:38 on the West Coast. I can tell you right now that I will be over top of Domantas Sabonis tomorrow. There's no way. I don't know what that number is going to be. I hope it's small because I just want to be all over it. It's a guy that, had a bunch of foot injuries, had a bunch of issues. And when he's right, he is right for Indiana. Going up against that New York front court that we just kind of targeted all last year, that seems like a great spot to go to. Bam Adebayo saw a big assist rate jump towards the end of last year and into the postseason. He's a guy that's really kind of opened up his offensive game as time has gone on and really impressed me. So 8,500 for him on FanDuel, another great spot to go to. And Zion Williamson, if he's going to be playing 33, 34, 35 minutes in some of these games early on for New Orleans, you're going to see him put up 50-point totals on the daily, and I want to be early on that too.
I can't disagree. I think you nailed it on the head and across all those points. Looking at some value at the power forward position, PJ Washington is 4,200 on DraftKings. Lauri Markkanen, who did not pick up the extension, he made it clear what he wanted, and the Bulls were not willing to offer it to him. He's at 4,800. Devin Vassell, who's been a very impressive rookie for the Spurs, he's the min at 3K. Darius Bazley, who's going to enter that starting lineup for OKC, he's at 5,100. Those are some intriguing value options as I take a look at it right now. On FanDuel, Nerlens Noel checks in at 3,900, and he will be starting for the Knicks. Nerlens Noel is one of those guys who can pick up those FanDuel-specific stats and stocks, steals, and blocks in a hurry. I like that price tag at 3,900 for Nerlens Noel. Any value power forwards that you like right now at a first look?
Yeah, isn't Ryu Hachimura going to be out tomorrow as well? Davis Bertans kind of at 4,700 over on FanDuel is a guy that I'm kind of looking at. We got news today, too, that Kevin Love's going to be out. Larry Nance and some of the other guys in that front court. We'll get to Drummond later, but I got to be having some interest in the Cleveland front court as well in that spot. I'm just kind of going down the line here. There are just so many good plays, and that needs to be reemphasized. you have so many opportunities to find the guys that are going to be 4, 5, 6%. And being 4, 5, 6% on this slate is different than a 6, 7 game slate where, you might be playing a little bit suboptimal. You can find your guys and find great pivots at every single price range all over the map. Robert Covington, 5,800. We don't know what that's going to look like in Portland, but he's always a guy who looks great on FanDuel for the steals and blocks. Going back over to DraftKings, you've got Obi Toppin, 3,700. He obviously had a dynamic preseason. I'm curious what those minutes are going to look like coming into the regular season, but you try to be early and often on some of these rookies, so that's somebody that I'm definitely got my eye on too.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Make sure you guys are giving us a review on our podcast page. You'll be eligible to win a $400 annual NBA pass. So we appreciate your support by hitting the subscribe button there, and we appreciate the support as we close out this calendar year. Onto the center position we go, and center on FanDuel on a 13-game slate, there are going to be some great options. Led by Karl Anthony Towns, who had one of the toughest 2020 years out there out of NBA players. Drummond, who's at 8,400. Joel Embiid is also at 9,400, the same price as Kat. Nikola Jokic checks in at 9,700. These are some nice, intriguing options in the upper tier center range. They all look fine to me, and I like them all. Is there someone in specific that stands out to you?
Karl Anthony Towns, 9,700. If you're trying to pay up at center in some of those spots, Joel Embiid against Washington, we saw Washington get annihilated by centers all year. Karl Anthony Towns facing Mason Plumlee in Detroit. That's a great spot. Nikola Jokic is always in a great spot. Nikola Vucevic, he's somebody that I always love to play because of how insane is. You know what? Sometimes you just can't get it out of your mouth. It's just so difficult. Vucevic, got it. There we go. And Andre Drummond, 8K. He could see a little bit of minutes bump, as much as you can for the first game out of the bag, but could see a little bit of a bump with Kevin Love off the floor, and that's definitely some usage to go around on the offensive end for him there too. So who are you kind of looking for in the middle? Because you should be looking on DraftKings on a slate like this to be putting in 2 power forwards and 2 centers in a lot of your lineups just because of how much value they give you.
Yeah, I think with some front court injuries, you can look at Jonas Valanciunas at 7,100. LaMarcus Aldridge is at 6,500 there. Rudy Gobert is at 6,800. Christian Wood is at 6,300. These are some nice, intriguing mid-tier options on that center position. If you're looking for value, which I never really do, I mean, Giannis also has center eligibility now this year on DraftKings. I mean, Mason Plumlee is all the way down at 3,700. He's going to take on a bigger role in Detroit. And Mason Plumlee is a very good, it was an exceptional backup center. He's also a very good passer. He really showcased that when he was with Portland. And at 3,700, he could definitely get there, but I think it's going to be truly a minute split. I really find it hard to see Plumlee getting over 28 minutes there. I think Okafor is going to see at least a 16 to 20 minute backup role there. You had mentioned someone on the Kings that intrigued you pre-show. Talk to me about him and why you like him so much.
On the Kings? Oh, Hassan Whiteside is 3,800. Like, that is, out of all the prices that I looked at today, Okoro at 3,400 and Hassan Whiteside 3,800 just sticks out like a sore thumb to me. I'm really curious what the news is coming out there. In the last preseason game, he put up 12 points, played all right in the 19 minutes, but it seems like he did outplay Rashawn Holmes in a lot of those spots. Hassan Whiteside at 3,800, we've seen him just put up some beastly numbers, especially with Nurkic's absences in spots last year. Hassan Whiteside 3,800. I just keep looking at it. It makes me laugh. I can't stop.
Yeah, I don't blame you really, but I'm a little skeptical with the Whiteside. I think Holmes is someone that they know in the Kings organization. He might get some extra run. But I'm willing to find those extra $600 and potentially go up to Wendell Carter Jr. Fortunately, Wendell Carter Jr. has just not been able to stay healthy in his career so far, but I think he has quite a bit of upside in talent, very promising talent, and I hope he can stay healthy this year. I think he'll be very, very good NBA player down the road. But he's at 4,400. I'm going to like that price tag against Atlanta. And the center position is just filled with studs, and it's a position where I always like to pay up and try to get finding enough value to maybe getting using my utility position on them. There's some nice matchups for especially for Karl-Anthony Towns at 9,700 and Drummond at 8K, where the double double bonus should pretty much be a lock over there for him. And Joel Embiid in a very nice matchup against Washington. And Nikola Jokic has pretty much the highest upside out of any center on this slate, maybe outside of Giannis now, because he has center eligibility. Giannis is up at 10-2. How do you feel about Giannis against Boston? Boston has sometimes given him troubles in the past, but how do you think Giannis will do on opening night?
He's the best fantasy basketball player on the planet. Him and James Harden, you can go 1-2 with either one of them. If you can afford him in whatever kind of build you're going for, you play him. It doesn't matter the matchup. It doesn't matter the spot. I almost prefer, because of how many times Milwaukee gets blown out in the course of a season, that they blow other teams out in the course of a season, I kind of prefer some of these tougher matchups for Giannis because you can actually see a minutes bump as opposed to he's a guy who can go for 60 in 25 minutes. And we've seen him do that multiple times. So in a closer game against a tougher opponent, those are the times you can maybe get a little bit depressed ownership on Giannis, and you'll still be getting him for a higher rate because just coming with the minutes.
Yeah, and Giannis is someone who obviously the whole offseason was circled around him if he was going to sign an extension. I loved what his teammates did on his birthday. They handed out pens and whatnot. And I think the difference with him signing with Milwaukee or outside of Milwaukee, I think it was a difference of $100 million. And if you were to tell Giannis a championship ring is worth $100 million, I find that hard to believe. So good for Giannis for securing that bag.
Get the money.
They did definitely, yeah. The Bucks definitely did some interesting moves, but they did lose out on some of their depth and some cap flexibility with their roster flexibility, and they did lose that second round pick, and they couldn't get Bogdanovich even after all what they went through. So it's kind of a chaotic offseason, but they got their prize possession, and Giannis has signed that deal. And before we talk about tonight's listener league and the winner, as Eric pulls that up, I want to talk about one of the tools on the site. I'm going to talk about the Awesemo lineup builder, and this is like one of the best tools out there for those of you who are using the Cruiser product or Cruiser promo or are new to it. It's something that you should definitely take advantage of. You pretty much hand build your lineup using Alex's rankings, his contrarian rankings, and really gives you a lineup that's unique, and you can see how it grades out and puts you in a position to potentially like have an upside in GPPs, just building by a couple hand building a couple lineups. You don't need to use an optimizer, and you can pretty much use it's a combination of all the metrics of rankings, ownership projections, and his rankings turned into a GPA for your lineup. So it's something that you should definitely check out. It's located on our main page under the tools handle. It's called a lineup builder, something that you should definitely take advantage of. And if you have any questions, please let us know, and we can definitely help you out there. Eric, how did the listener league end up tonight on DraftKings?
Well, yours truly got second place, so that's not a bad showing for the professor over here. So I banked a whole $4.50. It felt fantastic. I feel good about it. But it would have been bad to go DFL there. So at least second is a good showing for me right off the bat. However, I still lost by 26 fantasy points because Wikings or Weekings, or we're going to go Weekings, Wikings 26. It's my little brother's birthday. That makes me happy, 26. Piggyback Dennis Schroeder at 5% ownership. So that means they were the only person out of the 20-person field to play Dennis Schroeder, who went for 43 and just went absolutely bonkers tonight. Against the Clippers in a losing effort. So they rode that train all the way to first place. Congratulations, Weekings.
Wow. Yeah, Dennis Schroeder had quite the debut for the Lakers. That's going quite the fantasy turnout, and kudos to him for being the only one in that contest. Eric, where can we find tonight's listener league contest, and what site will it be on, and where can they find the link to it?
Well, we're going to get a little bit more advantageous. We're going to see if we can get the number up to about 30, 40. I'll take a look over on FanDuel. We're going to do a $1 FanDuel 30 to 50 max. We're going to kind of be somewhere in there for the field size. I'll take a look at it here afterwards. But FanDuel, $1. Come and join us for the Listener League. I'll make sure that I put something down there in the bio. Make sure you click subscribe. Make sure that you take care of that for us. That's one of the best ways that you can help the site and help all of us continue to do what we love to do.
Yeah, and if you missed out on tonight's annual pass giveaway on our main handle, make sure to be following at Awesemo_com or Twitter. We'll be having another NBA annual pass giveaway there. It's the season to be giving. We're going to be giving out a ton of annual passes before the holiday season is up. And we'll be having another one tonight. So stay tuned to that. Make sure to be following at Awesemo NBA as well. Our news guide behind the scenes will be retweeting the news of all the beat reporters around the association just to make sure you're on top of it and how Alex reacts to the news as well. And with that being said, make sure to follow Eric on Twitter, and you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me at Rynpak. That's RYNPAK. And where can they follow you, Eric?
At Eric Lindquist, ERICLINDQUIST. Very original.
And with that being said, we wish you all the best on tonight's 13-game slate, and we hope someone takes on one of those massive prize pools. Good luck, everybody.